Tá. Okay, so I will start. First of all, thank you everybody that is here. Is our last session of Semio Salon. Me and Bia, we are really proud to be here and bringing people that we really like and enjoy the work. So the first lecture will be from Letícia Moraes. Letícia Moraes holds a PhD in semiotics and general linguistics from the University of São Paulo, with a doctoral research fellowship at the University of Liège in Belgium. She is an associate professor in the Department of Linguistic and Portuguese Language at the Federal University of Paraíba, Brazil. She serves on the scientific committee on semiotics of the Brazilian Linguistics Association and coordinates the SemioLab Laboratory of Semiotics. Her research explores semiotics, textuality, artificial intelligence, and the practice and of life. Oops, sorry. the post. Yeah, and the practice and forms of life of minority groups. So thank you, Letícia, for coming, and you can start.
Okay. Can you listen to me well?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon from Brazil. And I'd like to thank you for the invitation and opportunity to be here. I'm especially happy because the possibility to dialogue between different semiotic groups around such a relevant topic. And today I discuss an aspect of my research on artificial intelligence and semiotics, drawing on the concept of practice and forms of life as systematized by Jack Fontenay. So we are going to talk about data, meaning, and resistance. Yes, thank you for putting the slides. So the studies on discursive semiotics and artificial intelligence date back to the 1970s with the research conducted by Algida Julian Grammar's students, such as Madeleine Arnaud. And in 1985, issue 36 of the renowned Acte Semiotique was dedicated to intelligence artificielle et théorie semiolinguistique, organized by Peter Stocker. Grammar himself later organized in 1988 a seminar entitled Semiotics and Artificial Intelligence Workshop at the École des Hautes en Sciences Sociales in Paris. You can pass the first presentation. Right? Yes. Okay. Oh, okay, thank you. Much earlier, we have to say that Charles Spears had already drawn conceptual bridges between logic, diagrammatic reason, and what we would today call computational thinking, laying important foundations for later discussions on artificial intelligence. This diachronic perspective, I think, allows us to understand how semioticians have been attentive to the emergence of artificial intelligence. And my talk offers a panorama of these technologies within contemporary practice and forms of life, and examines how Black communities have organized themselves to produce semiotic practice of resistance in the form of life that I call technoquilombismo. In the 1990s, the sociologist Pierre Levy became known for his theory of cyberculture, which conceptualized a culture that emerges from the interaction between humans and digital technology. And if we consider Yuri Lotman's concept of the semiosphere, cyberculture can be understood as a semiosphere mediated by technology and internet, but situated inside a broader semiosphere. In this sense, we might posit both a cyber semiosphere and a wider semiosphere. And I'm talking about this because this is a crucial point for me. With the advancement of new technology, I think we can no longer maintain a separation between what we call digital and non-digital, virtual and real, online and offline. Because what we are experiencing today is a kind of how I call technosemiotic ecosystem. Well, the term ecosystem comes from biology, where it defines a dynamic network of interdependence and coevolution among organisms and their environment. In a natural ecosystem, no organism lives or acts in isolation. For example, plants, animals, microorganisms, and the environment form a dynamic network of exchanges. And as I understand it, using semiotics, the term ecosystem highlights the need to apprehend human semiotic practices as mediated by exchange of different natures, human and machine. It thus brings into focus the correlation among subject, algorithms, data, and institutions, as well as the interdependence among these elements for carrying out everyday practices, such as buying a medicine at a pharmacy. The term technosemiotic emphasizes the very process of meaning generation articulated in this context, a dynamic and collective making of meaning that emerges from the continuous interaction between human and machinic subject within an iterative aspectuality. A visual semiotic object produced by an image-generating AI is the result of a complex interaction among practices of datafication, statistical processes, and the intersemiotic translation from verbal or visual language into numerical form, also known as embedding, as well as patterns derived from the analysis of other semiotic objects present in the dataset during training. Well, these images carry axiological values and they circulate through various practices, not only in the digital domain, but also in school textbooks, in education, method advertising, and so on. And to better understand how Black people, can you pass the other? Yes, thank you. And to better understand how Black people are figurativized by artificial intelligence, I conducted an experiment in which I asked Dolly, an AI model capable of generating images from verbal prompts to create images of professions. This research sought to answer the following question. And you can pass by design to this. Okay. You can observe how the people are publicized in profession, how the prompts are written there. The doctor. Okay, you can start now. So this research sought to answer the following questions. How do the most modern and well-known generative models frequentize human bodies with regard to racial issues? Are the numerous training cycles, as they tell us that they may, and the robustness of their data set sufficient to guarantee a figuratization grounded in ethical racial values? Or do these models reinforce stereotypes and discrimination patterns that are structurally and culturally rooted in our society? A quick analysis reveals mark of a colonized initiator, even when the prompts were written in Brazilian Portuguese. Words such as university on the board behind the professors, the colors of workers' uniform, and the urban setting are elements that point to the massive presence of global North data in the training of this artificial intelligence. We can pass the other, please. It's also noteworthy that many white women appear with straight and loose hair, while black women with long curly hair appear with their hair tied back. Well, we know that tying back black women's hair symbolically castrates their ancestry and domesticates the black body by semiotically erasing black aesthetic. There is another important point for me here regarding the intersection of race and aspectuality in the generated images. One observes that the lower the social prestige of the profession, the more likely the bodies are black, and the more likely they appear in action, performing the work. In the image of janitors, for example, the scene produces the effect of an accidental photograph. Both black human bodies look downward, without eyes, without smiles. Their subjectivity are erased, and they become objects among the other objects in the scene. This recalls the 19th century portrait by the French painter Debré of enslaved black people during Brazilian slavery. He consistently depicted enslaved people working, surrounded by tools, deprived of subjectivity. While in contrast to the janitors, the doctors stand still, arms crossed, holding no tools, since the stethoscope rests on their shoulders. Their white bodies, in a relaxed posture, signify on their own figures of authority that condense the thematic role of being a doctor. Looking into cultural iconography, we are reminded of classical statues of the Olympian gods, such as Asclepius, the god of healing and medicine, posed calmly while displaying his steps. Well, I can say that this experiment allows us to observe visual expression, the figures and themes that create the forms of life in our society. Arrangements of ideological and political social structures that have historically marginalized black bodies. confining them to purely paid, low prestige functions. It is important to remember that images like these are used in school textbook, advertising, social media, and so on. The technosemiotic ecosystem is not limited to images generated by artificial intelligence. It involves, for me, four characteristics, which I'll describe now. So you can pass. The first is algorithmic mediation in human practice. Machinic accents select, organize, and hierarchize meanings and values present in daily life. In digital health, for example, body monitoring applications, such as smartwatches that record heartbeat, sleep patterns, and step count, textualize everyday actions into mathematical texts, such as performance indexes, assigning axiological values to daily behaviors. Physical exercise ceases to be an individual experience and becomes a numerical valuation compared to the average obtained by other users. And based on these averages, the applications make recommendations and stipulate habit changes for groups inserted into certain forms of life. For example, the groups of athletic people, sedentary people. Reconfiguring how people experience their all corporeality. This example shows how machinic accents participate in the generation of meaning within a technosemiotic ecosystem. They operate at the level of practices and forms of life. They establish syncretized initiative contract in which enunciation is shared between two instances, the human and machinic system, that merge into a single enunciating subject. In the technosemiotic ecosystem, machinic mediation is thus a co-producing instance of signification. Well, and the second characteristic flows from the first, because the expansion of big data in semiotic terms, big data can be understood as extensive and complex collection of semiotic subjects belonging to different languages, like verbal, visual, mathematical, and syncret. Well, the data condenses regular semantic traces of human experience and carry the meaning of life, the meaning of our life, which include civil identity, records, salary information, gender and age markers, family ties and social networks, written verbal text, internet search histories, visual and audiovisual records, photographs and selfies, geographic coordinates, consumption information, financial translation, urban spatial trajectories, political position, and health indicators, among others. So what gives data such value in capitalist society, for big tech, for example, is precisely their semiotic value, for they allow reading of practice and forms of life. That is, of behaviors and how groups organize themselves collectively in a given culture. The expansion of big data was made possible by the third characteristic of the technosemiotic ecosystem, the practice of datafication. Datafication is the process by which our actions, such as going to a pharmacy and giving our national ID number, are transformed into data and archived in a system containing data from millions of other people. So financial institutions, governments, and big tech companies use datafication to make decisions and also to stabilize behaviors, reconfigure meaning, and reshape collective imaginaries. An example of this is the standardization of taste for North American aesthetics in films, movies, on streaming platforms such as Netflix. You can pass. So we have some dances of TikTok. We're going to talk about this and the other. Okay. Another example can be observed in the results of the self-esteem project by Professor Lev Manovich of the City University of New York. He collected Instagram selfies from 5 major cities around the world, which include São Paulo, in Brazil, Moscow, and Bangkok. When observing these photographs, we see a standardization of gestures. In Brazil, for example, young women take selfies making a duck face, like the photo, and tilting their head, a gesture common on Instagram and reinforced by the algorithm. This gestural standardization does not affect only the level of pertinence of the semiotic object selfie. It constructs a visual and political isotopy. The closer the semiotic object approximates the pattern, the more it circulates on Instagram and the more interactions it receives, creating a meaning effect of popularity for the user who posts a similar selfie. So we are led to believe that these aesthetic and behavioral patterns are reiterated in this medium, and as they are replicated daily on a massive scale, they lose their effect of singularity, becoming a kind of semiotic norm. That is, unexpected behavior and gestural repertoire within the practical scene of the selfie. And I think that more than affecting the object itself, by becoming a norm, it also affects the practice of self-photography. Because this repetition shapes how women, and of course, not only women, behave, how they perform femininity, and how they construct constitutive threats of a feminine form of life. We can observe this as well in urban space, where we notice a pattern of dancing and body movement, very typical of TikTok short video. In the last slide, we saw some examples of this dancing, in which bodily gestures must remain within the framing of the smartphone camera. And everyone who dances make the same movement in this frame. The final characteristic of the technosemiotic ecosystem is the insolubility of the boundaries between the virtual and the real. As we have already shown, the effects of artificial intelligence are not restricted to the virtual environment because they circulate diffusely and transversely, sustained by ontological continuity. For example, in Brazil, When we go to a pharmacy, the employee asks for our CPF, our national identification number. Pharmacists sell this data to private health insurance companies, as numerous news reports have recently shown. And when we purchase a health insurance plan, the data from our purchases, our consumption profile in pharmacy, are used to calculate the price we will pay. And Black people constitute the majority in Brazil of groups with lower income and more limited access to public health care. And it is these people who end up paying more for private health insurance. So we can say that data, algorithms, and artificial intelligence reinforce structural racism. Thus, we can say that big data results from a process that stabilizes human practice and behavior within a more durable support, function as a kind of raw material for AI systems to make predictions through statistical and probabilistic calculation. In this process, everyday actions, such as buying a product at the nearest pharmacy, navigating urban spaces using GPS, or searching for information on Google, are imprinted as manipulated semiotic objects. Data ceases to be mere archived traces, witnesses of past action, and began to function as a programming material. In some cases, they are used in probabilistic modeling of the possible future, such as in the case of people with a history of disease, who will probably be more expensive for the health insurance company. And now, for me, the most important question. Can you pass, please? How then have Black people in Brazil organizing themselves in response to the impact of artificial intelligence, this technology largely created and driven by countries of the global north? Within the technosemiotic ecosystem, a specific type of semiotic practice demands our attention. Practice of resistance, carried out by Black people embedded in the Quilombo way of life. In this context, I refer to this practice as technoquilombism. Quilombos are collective forms of social, political, and economic organizations that articulate subjects and objects in opposition to the colonial and racist orders. As formulated by Abadias do Nascimento, Quilombismo proposed a model of community organization grounded in solidarity, the valorization of the African root, and the rejection of the colonial structures of the nation state. In doing so, it established a collective narrative program imbued with values that diverge from the individualistic logic characteristics of the global north. Within the technosemiotic ecosystem, the collective Black subject is constituted alongside a value object that carries values of collective, shared memory, and the sovereignty of Black people in the diaspora. Can you pass, please? For example, we have the, okay, you talk here about this. Practice that may understood as a part of technoquilombism include, first, the creation of Black archives and collections, which operate semiotically against the historic erasure. For example, the project Afro-Stops. Second, Black pedagogical initiative in the field of information technology, such as courses, community laboratories, and technological training programs aimed at the Black population. For example, the Educar for Brazil project and the Preta Lab platform in this slide. And third, Black audiovisual and photographic production on social media and image banks, which may or may not engage with Afrofuturistic aesthetic. The reactivation of past memories or the reinvention of the present. Can you pass? So we have there Zaica dos Santos work, who created the César Suban, a utopian scenario of the Brazilian pay-per-view, were great oris to the protection and the resignification of the now. And the other slide, this is art who was exposed in Digital Bienal in Brazil. And also, Zaica makes photographies. Can you pass? Yeah, like this, where the Black women are painted and there are photographs with the build of Black women in digital society, digital media. And you can pass the other example. So, Ana Julia or Beatriz, can you put the video that I sent? Because it's just the image.
Yes, wait a second.
Mm-hmm. There's the audio because I can't see. This video has audio, a music. You can listen to it. I can.
No.
Because the music in this case is so important because it's a northeast kind of a music. I can't listen, but you people there can listen.
Yes, we are here and here, but I don't the audio,
Okay.
sorry. I'm gonna try again. Wait a second. Okay.
Agoixu. Sorry, are you try again?
Yeah.
Laro Exu, Agô Exu, Mabá Exu, Mojubá Exu, Mojubari, Agô Exu. Laro Exu, Exu. Mojubá Exu, Mojubari.
Okay, thank you. This is Visualizer, or EBO, and is a work in progress by the artist Zeb, Z-E-B-B, Brazilian, from João Pessoa, artist. The videos are produced using AI tools, while the musical track explore the universe of what the artist defines as subgrade nordestino. What is subgrade nordestino? Is an electronic music created in Brazil Northeast, grounded in the relations between electronic music and traditional and popular culture music. The concept behind this project is to promote a perspective rooted in African and Afro-Brazilian matrices within spaces of epistemic dispute understood as an open site for the production of other meanings and other forms of life for Black people. And another example, here we saw examples of Afrofuturistas with Zaica dos Santos and Debbie. And now an example that I think Beatriz already shown here before. I'm not sure, Beatriz? Yes, I think so. And an illustrative example here is the work of Mayara Ferrão, who employs artificial intelligence to question and reconfigure colonial historical representations. In her album of Unforgetting 2024, Mayara Ferrão uses AI to create fictional memories through images depicting scenes of affection between Black and Indigenous women. Well, it's not an attempt to recover retrievable experiences, but as a practice of imagination. You can pass. And the other. A memory of what could have been. In this sense, the work resists the semiotic erasure of the everyday life and affection of enslaved people historically produced by colonization. Taken together, these examples demonstrate that Black people in Brazil have organized themselves through practices that be conceptualized as technoquilombism. That is, you can pass this. The realization within the the realization within the technosemiotic ecosystem of a collective narrative program that sustains a way of life and mobilizes the semiotic discursive strategy of resistance, of datafication, the coloniality of data, algorithmic bias, and the structural asymmetry between the global north and the global south. By reconfiguring axiological frameworks, extension positions, and modalizations of doing within the technosemiotic ecosystem, this practice established recurring modes of acting, feeling, and signifying. And in doing so, they demonstrate the technology function as a space for semiotic and political dispute in the production of meaning within the contemporary semisphere. To conclude, I would like to thank you very much once again for the inviting and for your attention. And I really hope that this talk can contribute to our ongoing dialogue and inspire future reflections and exchanges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Letícia. It was amazing, amazing presentation. And I want to ask if someone here have any questions about the research here or in the chat. I have it. Okay. You can listen to me?
I can listen, but it was maybe loud.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. First of all, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to be here. And I really like your research because it resonates a lot with my research and the things we are discussing here in this Afro-Brazilian semi-along. And I think the concept that you brought, techno-quilombism, I think summarizes so much what we are trying to show here, like how Black people organize in Brazil in a way of resistance, in a collective resistance, collective way of learn and being, I guess. And my question to you is how you think we can continue to building this techno-quilombism with these big data companies like ChatGPT, how we can use this generative AI or AI to reinforce ourselves as Black people in the cyberspace, I guess, and how we can organize in this way, like is there a form how to use this prompt to reinforce our culture and our kilobins, I guess.
Yes. Thank you for your question, Beatriz. I think the most important is to understand first that just making prompts and asking to ChatGPT or other artificial intelligence makes produce images. It's not enough. I think we have to demand act in political spaces for artificial intelligence, and we have to demand this big tech to start looking for local spaces for like Northeast, for example, and get data here, also here. For example, I have a research with a friend, Sylvia, is a researcher in semiotics also. And we make a research with two different AI. An AI from Brazil, Maritaka, with data from Brazil, and artificial intelligence, global artificial intelligence, I think it's ChatGPT. And we research the linguistic expressions that are not dictionarized, that we can see if these expressions can be understood by the artificial intelligence. And the results are completely different because when we have local data, they can better comprehend, I don't know how to say it, understand the expressions from northeast and north of Brazil. And ChatGPT, for example, say all that this expression is from Portugal and makes historic explanations, but he can't understand the context, the Brazilian context. So I think the first step is construct the data set focused on Brazilian context and so global context, not just Brazil. And yes, I think we can continue researching for resistance practice and making a group like you are doing, spaces for discussions for this. Because we are just starting now. There are so much to make about this.
Thank you. Ooh. Sorry for the echo. Yeah. Thank you so much for your answer. And I actually, I don't know if my mic is on. Yeah, it's on. Thank you for this. I totally agree with you, and I think that I said in my presentation, and I keep seeing in the space that we are open, is like every win that we have as a society in a political way of think, like when we as Black people gained the quotas in Brazil was a victory to audiovisual productions, because then we have more space in academic, and then you have more space to make this discourse. And I think you're right. We have to pay more attention in the politics that are going on about AI, and keeping researching and stop to think about all of this. So thank you so much for sharing your ideas in this amazing space.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone here have more questions? Or do you have?
Hi, can you hear me? This is Ludmila speaking. And I wanted to thank you for your talk. It was really nice and I enjoyed it visually. Very nice pictures and the videos you showed us. So I just wanted to ask, because you use a lot of this term of technosemiotics, if you are familiar with the work by Auli Vidaleb from Tartu. She has a lot of papers, and she also published a book on the technosemiotics. And now she started working in this combining techno and ecosemiotics. So I just saw a lot of conversion between your approach and hers. So of course she's not applying this to the Afro-Brazilian culture, but I was just curious if you encountered her work and if you think it's relevant for your research.
Yeah, in fact, I just discovered that recently, and I was so happy. And yes, I'd like to exchange the researches and the groups. I think it's important to all the semiotic groups being dialogue. So I will do that for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, now I think you can hear me. Thank you so much again. And we will pass to the next lecture. It's from Gege Albuquerque. And it's relatable because it's about the Afro-Brazilian culture inside the sounds and this new techno era. It's more relatable with funk. I talked about GG in the in my first presentation, so I'm really excited, and I will present it here. Can you? We will finish this live, and we will start another one in YouTube channel. So if you're in YouTube, you can continue watching in another section. Just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, please. Thank you, Letícia.